go. Okay, so good morning, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for your patience as we got started this morning. We're using that wonderful new waiting room setup, and it's been working wonderfully, so we're going to keep doing that. Then we can bring everybody in when we're ready to start, and nobody feels like they're kind of in the way or anything as we're trying to get set up. So first and foremost, I'm going to ask that if you are not muted already, that you please do so for this, especially for this presentation. We have to make sure everyone is muted. We do record these, so we're still working on getting our YouTube channel up and going. We've been having some technical issues where the videos don't want to convert over to be supported by YouTube, but I think we're close on that at this point. It's just a matter of uploads. So hopefully we'll have all those up and visible before too long. We have one little thing that we're doing a little bit differently this time than we normally do. So before we get really started, I want to make sure everybody understands how to use the speaker view setting on Zoom. So if you don't know how to use the speaker view setting, please speak up now, unmute yourself and ask if you need to, put it in the chat, whatever you need to do. Our presenter today will be using speaker view rather than share screen due to the nature of what we're presenting, which will become pretty clear and obvious as we go along today. So if you don't know how to go to speaker view, please do that. Or please ask, if you haven't done that already. And I don't see any, I see a wave, but I don't see anybody asking for help yet. So I'll assume.
I don't know what that is.
What's that?
I don't know what that speaker view is. I've never used it.
All right. So do you have Craig, do you have a tile of a bunch of different people right now, or?
Yes.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know what speaker view is and you're still kind of hunting around, you have a couple of choices on your view. And one is the gallery view, which is probably the default for almost everybody. And basically what that is the tile of somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 different people right now is what I see logged in. I have 31. So to get to the speaker view, you hover your mouse in the upper right of that area. There's a little thing that says view, and you just hover over that view and you click on it, and it should have two options: speaker view, gallery view, and then there's also a full screen for me, at least, because I have both the chat and the participants windows open on mine. But what you want to do is make sure you click on that speaker view. And once you do that, what'll happen is whoever's the speaker at that point will be highlighted on your screen. So you'll primarily see that person's image.
Oh.
You got it?
Yeah, I see. I didn't know what that was. I think I've used that before. Thank you.
Excellent. Everybody else good to go? All right, cool. Thank you all for patience again. Technology is a brutal and wonderful tool, I have to admit. So welcome all. My name is Scott Piotrowski. I am the current president of the California Historic Route 66 Association. For those of you who don't know me, I've been involved in Route 66 preservation specifically, I shouldn't say specifically, but primarily in the Los Angeles region for about 25 or so years now, since I moved to Los Angeles area. So I have written a book, I've done a video, I've done a lot of presentations, done a lot of other stuff in and around the road. So kind of a little bit of knowledge to share here, but there's a lot of other people who have done a lot more than me on a lot more sections of the road. So with COVID hitting last year and everything shutting down, we decided to try to get out the word a little bit about what was open, what you could go and see, what you could go and do. And we started doing these presentations in May of 2020. And we were doing 2 a month for a while, and it just was way too much to to manage for our organization. So we're doing one a month. We've been doing the fourth Saturday of the month all year. We've had some amazing presentations. We've got a whole bunch more lined up. You'll see a little bit about that later after our presenter today. But this is our opportunity to kind of give everybody some info about 66 in general, but mostly in California, and give you guys a chance to ask questions of a whole bunch of experts. And speaking of experts, I want to point out a few that are with us today from the California Route 66 Association. As I go down our participant list, Lynn Miller is with us. She is our treasurer. Board member Beth Murray is with us. Let's see, who else do I see? I see another board member, Mike May, with us. And our vice president of the Eastern region, Delvin Harbor, is there. Did I miss anybody? I know Terry's normally with us and can't be today. I think that's everybody from our board that's on right now. So you can see we kind of have a good number of people who are pretty active regularly in what we're doing and have been very involved in these presentations and getting us set up and arranging presenters for us, because really that's the hardest part for us, is getting a presenter to confirm and make sure that they're ready and available. And speaking of ready and available, without any further ado, I will turn it now over to today's speaker. Mr. Scott McCoy is the founder of, or the owner of, the McCoy Corp and the founder of the Ultimate Route 66 Guide. So Scott, take it. Oh, well, one thing real quick before you start, Scott, let me just say, for those of you who didn't hear, we are recording today. So just so you know that, okay? And Scott, go ahead and take it over.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it. And thanks to Scott and Terry, Lynn, Beth, Mike, Donovan. Am I good? All right.
Good.
You had me muted. Okay. Well, thanks to the California Historic Route 66 Association. I've been participating in these for some time, actually, probably pretty close to when you started them, maybe. I try to participate in all associations and anything out there involving the Mother Road. I learned a lot. I'm by no means an expert at anything in my life, which my wife constantly reminds me. And, you know, the learning process is always a fun one, because every time you go back out on that road, you learn something new. And California, since I'm from Illinois, Central Illinois, right here on Route 66, California is the furthest away for me. And I love learning so much about California, and the association has done so much in promoting the Mother Road, especially over COVID, when, you know, all the organizations do great in every state, but, you know, they're all different, and everybody's got a different setup. And California actually stepped up in the COVID era. And I think they should be commended for that. So I want to welcome everybody. For those of you who are familiar with our app, the Route 66 Ultimate Guide, it is the #1 Route 66 app out there in the world. We have an unbelievable amount of users, a lot more than I thought we would have by this point. It's basically still in our development mode for the last 4 years. And the feedback has been tremendous. So what we're going to do today is I want to give you a little bit of rundown of how the app works. Obviously, we'll cover the entire route. I'm going to try to focus more in the California region, since this is the California Association, and most of the participants here are probably from California or that near area, or interested in it, which you should be. It's only 70-some% humidity out there, Scott tells me, and here in Central Illinois we're like 114%, and we're supposed to hit 105 today, heat index. So I've got the air on and I'm still sweating here. Let me just tell you just a little bit about me, because it's not about me, it's about the app. But to give you a little bit of my background, because a lot of people do ask, I'm a technology developer. I've been a technology developer for almost 25 years, way back even when the internet was in its infancy and people never even heard about it. In fact, my wife introduced me to the World Wide Web when she was in college, and it was one of her programs. I had never heard of it. I didn't know, but I was still involved in technology at the time. And that got me interested in all the different things we could do with this better communication. So I had started a new company. I really started in hardware with computers, moved into software. Then I moved into the internet and essentially online, whatever it now calls apps, and that sort of thing. So software technology development is my background, and we primarily focus in vertical markets. What that means is a specialized market that doesn't have something yet for it, we develop it. Most of the things that my company has developed, you've never heard of, you never will hear of. They're made for, Fortune 500 companies, Fortune 100 companies, and it works in their back end. So you never hear about it. But the Route 66 Ultimate Guide is one of those that is our product specifically for the market in a retail type of atmosphere, or a direct to consumer directly from us. And that makes it even more exciting. Now, the background that I have in technology really wasn't developed into tourism yet, or Route 66. And many years ago, for other different political reasons, I decided to run for mayor of our town. Now, if you've heard of Pontiac, Illinois, I was the mayor there. And when the museum got started, the Route 66 Museum, we basically had to start in that development. So let me go ahead and switch on my my presentation here. And with the Route 66 Museum, you've probably seen this mural. This is one of probably the most famous mural photo that everybody gets their car taken in front of. I was involved with this and one of the projects that we had in the back end of the Route 66 Museum. Pontiac, Illinois is a very small town, about 12,000 people. And we had no tourism. Well, I'll take that back. Pontiac had a little bit of tourism because we have one of the largest penal institutions in the state of Illinois. So we had people coming from Chicago and St. Louis, and they'd visit their loved ones in the prison. That was our tourism. That's all we had. When the 66 Museum started up, we started to focus on this. It was completely new to me. And as mayor, of course, I was intimately involved in it. So we had to learn marketing. We had to learn, and I just jumped right into it. And being a people person, I loved it. I really enjoy people. I enjoy jumping on the buses and talking to people and pointing things out and going through the history. I enjoy the history side of things. And that's really kind of what got me started into tourism. At that time, in the early 2000s, apps weren't really a thing yet. And I developed a walking tour. So you had the little iPod type of device, you stick it in your pocket, you put the headset on, you walk around, you see the different things. And that got me even more interested in it because there was a need for that. People wanted, we couldn't have a tour guide with every single couple that walked through town, which, by the way, is now easily over 22,000 that we can count in a season, which is really pretty incredible. Pontiac became the third largest destination for tourism, meaning that's specifically where they're going in the state of Illinois. Chicago's one, Springfield is number 2, and Pontiac has become number 3. So what I said is, okay, so if we're going to make this happen in a big way, now that apps are a thing, and we can do so much more than this little, excuse me, this little iPod or a brochure, and those are all fantastic, but I think we can do something more. Now, we all have the different books and the maps, and again, they're all fantastic. They're all great in their own ways. Some people are more visual, some people more text driven for their understanding as they travel, but they all have their limitations. And I said, well, okay, if you're going to travel Route 66 and you want to find out where all the turns are, you're going to need a map or some kind of a guidebook. And I own them all, really love them all. They're all great. I highly recommend all of them, but they were outdated. In fact, there's a new book that I just purchased not too long ago. I don't have it here in front of me. And it's brand new. I mean, it literally just came out within the last 30, 60 days. And it's already has several areas in there that I found that have been outdated. And that's just the typical way that a book works. So I said, well, that's a problem. And we need a way to update people a little bit quicker. That's really all what led into the development of the Route 66 Ultimate Guide. It is a totally free app to download. It is available on Apple and Android. It's also available in the Samsung store, which of course is Android as well. We tried to make the interface extremely simple and easy to understand and use. You have the travel guide, you have a field guide, and some things I'll talk about here in a second. But nice big buttons. There's also a slide out menu, so you can operate it just like, pretty much any other app. But just kind of a nice, clean interface that works both in the daytime and at night. One of the things I'll say just real quick, it's interesting. I had a really fun podcast that I was interviewed on yesterday, and one of the discussions we had is there aren't any two travelers that are the same. You've got people on motorcycles, you have people in RVs, you have people in cars, you have families, you have single people traveling it by themselves. Some people travel at night, some people travel during the day. You've got weather, there's always these different factors, and we try to make the app fit all of these factors. If you're in an RV or a motorcycle, you're not going to be able to drive, on really bad old dirt roads, as an example. And we had to take all of that into consideration in development of the app, but the simplicity of it is one thing. Now I want to talk about the travel guide, because obviously this is the biggest part of it. The travel guide, we have around 1,500 current POIs, or points of interest. These range anywhere from a former location or a historical spot or property to abandoned buildings or different statues, structures, and then even modern businesses that are on Route 66 and modern attractions. So any of those is considered a POI or a point of interest. We have the travel guide that has all of the states listed, so you can travel in one particular state or search that particular state, or of course the full route that you see there at the top. Once you select a route, you're going to have the option of multiple routes within that state. Or once you pick a state, I should say, you have multiple routes. So we list all of the points of interest that are available in there, both eastbound and westbound. And then we have recommended routes. There will be more routes as we continue. There'll be a fast route. So if you're limited, let's say you have 5 days or 7 days or 3 days, and you need a faster route, it will actually route you more onto the interstate, so you can make up that time in between and visit more points of interest. And you'll have a big slew of them here as the development continues. On the right side there, the third screenshot you see here, we have the points of interest in Needles, California, which of course is the first place you hit as you cross over heading westbound into California. And it tells you everything that you need to know. And it's kind of interesting with California because the other states don't have this, but they have the Border Protection Station there. A lot of people don't know what that is, or don't know, what to do, or it's just kind of an odd thing for California versus, most of the other states just aren't used to that. And again, we take that into consideration. So that becomes a point of interest, just so you're aware of what they're going to do. They're going to look for, are you bringing plants or veggies, that type of thing, into the state of California, because, they don't like vegetables there, I guess. We also tell you when you're changing time zones, and then of course the points of interest begin as you look down the list. So the list is different. Here's one, again, this is the Needles one on the left. On the right side, we have one from Illinois, which is showing my original hometown of Pontiac, and at different points of interest. We also have sub points of interest. Now, this is really unique because there is nothing out there that does this. And if you go to the Hall of Fame and Museum in Pontiac, obviously the museum itself is a point of interest. The sub point of interest would be the Bob Waldmeyer bus, which sits out back, and you can tour through that bus. It's part of the museum, but it's on the property. It needs its own designation. It has its own history. It has its own background and uniqueness to it, even though it's part of the museum. And then, of course, the world's largest Route 66 shield mural is on the back. And so those show as sub points of interest. As you dig deeper and you click on one or tap on one of the points of interest, you get information about that particular point of interest. Here again, I've got one in California, and then the start of Route 66 up here in Chicago. Tells you about the point of interest, history, descriptions, points of interest hours, and all of that is listed. Some unique things that we've just added that a lot of people are just now noticing, because we really haven't announced it. We just add it to the app and update it. The points of interest now will show you if they're open or closed at the time you look at it, instead of you having to figure out if they're still open or closed. That was a big request from users, just to make it kind of easy and convenient. We added the hours, which is underneath there. We have multiple seasons, and that was a unique thing too, is when a point of interest lists their hours, most of the time it's just the hours, Monday through Sunday. But in Route 66 world, we have multiple seasons. Some point of interests have 4 different seasons. So they'll have the heart of the summer, they'll have fall, they'll have the dead of winter. So in Illinois, Missouri, a lot of the attractions shut down. So they're shut down during a period of time, and then they have a spring kind of pre-season, and their hours are limited. So that became kind of an interesting scenario, and we decided to make multiple seasons, so that would be an accommodation for everybody to understand. We also have we get a lot of comments about these little icons, which indicate in points of interest what is there, whether parking is available. The green on the right side there, you see the little green check mark. That means you've added it to your trip at some point. You've got photo ops. If it's RV friendly or even pet friendly, we show that as well. Further into the apps, here's actually on the right side, you can see multiple seasons, special dates that are either closed or not closed. Again, these are screen mock-ups of the app. These aren't necessarily live, real data. On the left side there, we have audio tours. And this is, again, one of our test ones. The audio tours feature is complete. It is in the app currently. We just don't have any actual audio up there yet. We're working with voiceover people and characters and that sort of thing to develop these and put them in the app. Not only will you be able to be at a point of interest and listen to the audio tour of it, but we will have separate tours for walking tours. Like I said, it used to be the thing, you put the iPod in your pocket, walk around. The app will accommodate that because so many different museums or walking tours through downtown, you're not going to drive one part of the block and then a third of the block and another third of the block. You're going to walk into those tours, and then the walking tour not only will tell you about the point of interest, it will direct you as you travel through those points of interest on the walking tour. We have a very unique feature, and this is one of the things I really wanted in there. It's called My Location. And as you're using the app, if you show up at some particular POI and you want to learn more about it, you just click on My Location on the main screen of the app. it will determine where you are currently located and tell you. Now, this is kind of a hint, and you'll find this more and more as you travel the road. There are a lot of locations that are not in the app. They're just old buildings that are crumbling apart, or whatever the case may be. And the app, if you stop at these, even though it's not indicating that it's a real point of interest to stop, because we can't list everything, we also want you to explore a little bit on your own. But if you're there and you want to know exactly what this is or what it was, you can click my location and it'll still tell you. So it'll pop up as a point of interest and give that to you. Likewise, when you show the list of points of interest in any particular state or any particular, the full route, you can sort it and actually filter out points of interest. I want to see the side trips. I want to see the main points only. I want to see everything. And you can change that. When you're at my location and you're at a point of interest, you can do different things. You can see here, you can sign the guest book. You can get a stamp in your passport, your virtual passport within the app, which I'll show you here in a moment. You can take selfies, and then you can collect postage stamps virtually as well. On the right side, this is pretty neat. On the right side, you have the pop-up to actually sign the guest book for a point of interest. And yeah, that's me with a goofy face in that shot. So if you visit, once the app knows that you've visited a location, you can sign their guest book. You can rate them and leave all those comments that you wish to leave. And there's some pretty unique things about that too, which we'll talk about. You also do not have to visit a location in person during hours, say inside the attraction. A lot of times you'll stop by, they're closed, it's a holiday, it's a weekend, whatever the case may be, it's late at night. As you're traveling, you stop, you look at the stuff outside, that's great, and then you leave. Unfortunately, you can't sign their guest book that is sitting inside. This allows you to do that, and then it actually gives it to that point of interest, and they can see everybody who signed the guest book. We also have a new feature coming out, which is timeline. Again, this is just a mock-up to show you, give you an idea. The points of interest that have a historical value to them will have an actual timeline. So it'll spell it out in a visual like this, so you can actually see when things happened, when they were founded or established, when they changed their name, when they moved, and that sort of thing. So that's a neat feature that I'm really looking forward to as we continue to add it. The point of interest search is one of our most used features within the app. You can keyword search. I want to find museums. I want to find everything with neon in it. That's one of our more popular searches. You can search by state, different categories, and filter it out any way you want. So this allows you to search the entire Mother Road and find what is out there. Again, going back to the neon search, that's one of our top searches for users and travelers. They want to see neon. They want to know when the neon's on. And if you're not familiar with neon, especially during the day, I visited places during the day and I've never noticed the neon because it's not on. It's during the day. And then I'll come back and it's like, oh, they had neon in that sign, and it's pretty cool. So this way you can actually make those searches and find out. Now we have the field guide. The field guide is fairly simple right now because we've been working so hard and focusing so much on our navigation feature, which we'll talk about here in just a few seconds. But the field guide is meant to be a guide of sort of all things Route 66. Right now, it's pretty simple. We tell you about traveler points and the points of interest icons, what's each one of those, what they mean, how to collect stamps, and so forth. This will include a lot of other things, like one of the things we get a lot of is, what in the world is that object? So you get out west, you get all the cattle guards, and a lot of people have no clue what those things are, and it rattles your tires as you drive over them. And we will explain all of these unusual objects, not necessarily part of Route 66, but they're on it, and it's something you're going to deal with. Another one we get are the different water towers and the different shapes of water towers. And then even in the Flagstaff area of people noticing that some of the trees are actually fake and they are cell towers that are decorated to look like a tree. So it blends in, and we get questions about that. So we will talk about all those different type of things, plus hints, tips, things to visit, travel preparation, and all of that will be included right within the app. On the right side, just so you know, when you get, we'll talk about this in navigation, but once navigation starts, you will actually have rankings. And the top ranking is Master Roadie. So the more places you visit, the more points you'll get, and then the higher rank that you will have within the Route 66 guide. The passport will also begin as, now we got some of them working right now as we continue to test, but it'll begin with the navigation as well. When you visit a point of interest, you will be able to stamp your passport. Now, this is virtual. And again, you don't have to be there. One of the problems with a, say, paper type of passport or stamping a collector book or something that you have is they have to be there. They also have to have a stamp. Most of them don't, or if they're closed, or, you know, it's after hours, it's a weekend, it's whatever, you can't get a stamp. And that always becomes an issue. And or yesterday during the podcast, it came up that somebody had a passport book, and every time they went into a point of interest, they forgot it and they left it in the car. And they're like, we did the whole route and we had 3 stamps. The app does the work for you. You visit a location, even if they're closed, it knows that you are located there, and it gives you 24 hours to stamp your passport. The nice side about that as well is the point of interest, if they're an actual manned point of interest, say a business or something with people and owners, they will know that somebody got their passport stamped there, and then be able to, you know, glean a little bit of data from that to see that people are still visiting. One of the things we get from points of interest is we'd like to know how many people are stopping by. You know, we close at 4, we close at 5, we close at 6. I wonder how many people will get between closing time and, you know, 11 o'clock at night. Now they'll be able to get a lot of that data that comes back from the app. And all these stamps that you get are really unique. So here's a bunch of them. I grabbed a bunch from California specifically, so you can see them. They're all unique. They're all created by us here. You also can get a passport every 24 hours. So if you visit the same place in a couple days, say on your trip out and back, you can get it stamped again. It stamps the date and time when you actually receive the stamp as well. And there'll be a new stamp every year for the points of interest. Then we have what's called collector stamps, not to be confused with a passport stamp that looks like an actual, you know, hit it on the paper stamp. These look like postage stamps. Again, they're virtual, and these will be available at select points of interest. These are usually our official points of interest. They are somewhere where you do have to go inside. So if you arrive at the Jackrabbit Trading Post, it's shown here, if you go inside, you'll see that QR code there on the left. They have a sign that's sitting in the kind of the checkout area. You take your app, you scan the QR code. Now, the app knows that you're at the location. That's how you get the passport stamp. But when you scan the QR code, the specific one, it knows that you are physically located there because and inside. So you actually went inside. And in some cases, the points of interest will kind of hide these a little bit to make you search around and look for it, a little bit of a scavenger hunt, if you will. And in some cases, they won't have a sign at all. You'll have to actually ask them, go up and say, you know, hey, I'd like to get my collector stamp from you. They will, they have their own app, which is called the Route 66 Community. It's the back end of the system, and they have their own app. They can hold it up, give you the QR code, and then you can scan that to collect the stamps. Again, the stamps will change and over the years, and you'll be able to collect those every year. Route 66 News is a big one as well. We have different news for each of the states, even business opportunities, things that are becoming available. We talk about, of course, new attractions. Here's one that just came up in Kingman that they're dedicating today, in fact. And then we have alerts. So on the right side there, if you're traveling and you have, the app on you, obviously, if there's a really important, urgent type of alert, a road closure. Here, this is actual alert, the screenshot that I'm showing you here. We had some extreme flooding. It was actually very close to us, and it took out the interstate. So if you were traveling on the interstate, we moved you over to Route 66 and let you know what was going on. That will actually, you don't even have to have the app running. It will just pop up an alert, very similar to, say, a weather app, and it'll alert you to that. We have an events calendar. Our events calendar is very unique. We have, it actually shows you on the days where this particular day that I'm showing you here, it showed 2 events that were running, approximately how long that they're through that particular one, and even different events that have been canceled. It'll give you the information, how to get more information on those events. This is a fun one. Just kind of a little bit of a pet project of mine is doing selfies. So the selfie, and again, this is a really bad shot of me, but the selfie feature allows you to take a selfie of yourself. It gives you a frame. You can select from multiple frames. We'll be adding a lot more frames to it. And the frames, there's 2 different style frames. The first one is kind of generic. If you're just out and about on Route 66 and you want to take a selfie, you can pick one of the frames, take a selfie and submit it. You can send it to Facebook. You can share it with others. You can do whatever you like with it. If you're at a point of interest that has its own specific frames, say the Jackrabbit Trading Post, the end of the trail on the Santa Monica Pier, any of these, and you're on the pier, then it'll show you and say, hey, this pier has specific frames that you can use. It says, hey, look, I made it all the way to the end. And you can snap a selfie and share that. We also have a VIP card. This has its own, you have your own unique membership number with us. When you sign up, the account is free again. Shows your status, basically your PIN level. And this will become more and more available with the points of interest as you go in. You're looking for a discount, a free gift, that sort of thing. They will actually make sure you're a member by looking at your VIP card. They will scan it so they can log that you were there and see that information and basically give you some discounts as you go down the road. This is one of the hidden features that a lot of people haven't found yet because you have to look into settings. But you can sign your name right within the app, your actual signature with your finger. And when you sign a POI's guest book, you can put that signature right on there. So, just typing text is great when you're leaving a comment, but a lot of people want their own signature, and the app actually accommodates that. We also have an emergency feature. So if you do have an emergency, you can slide this over. It'll dial 911. Again, that's just kind of one of those things that a lot of people from other countries are not sure what to do. And we just kind of help direct them through that. Now, the big part is talking about navigation. This was really designed and planned to come out last year. That didn't happen because of COVID and other different setbacks. I had some surgery scheduled. COVID moved that into this year, which has also put us behind in doing it. So we don't want to release something until it's ready. We don't expect it to be perfect, but we want it to be solid as possible and then work out bugs as we go. But navigation is one of those things that we've been developing for 4 years and have kind of put off here recently, but it's really scheduled to come out here about any day. And hopefully sooner rather than later. But again, the COVID has really put a push back on that because of my team and testing and so forth. But let's talk about just real quick what navigation is going to do and how it's unique compared to using any other app that is out there. We have a totally customized navigation system. All other apps for navigation use a back end what's called SDK and API, which means they buy it from somebody else who makes maps and put it into a mapping system. Google Maps, Apple Maps, you've got Here Maps. So Here Maps, for an example, does most of the vehicles, or a lot of the different vehicles navigation systems in your car. So there's only a handful that really have all this data, and then you can kind of overlay what the different things you want to do on it. The problem that we had in that, we actually started that way 4 years ago, is, well, there's a lot of different reasons. I'll talk about those in a second, but they're really not reliant. They're not reliable, and they're not updated very frequently. And I'll talk about that here as we get further into it. Ours is custom designed from the ground up, which is another reason that it's taken a while. And we want to really test it and make sure that we're solid with it. It's vehicle specific. So the mapping will actually change if you're in an RV, especially if you're in a larger RV, or if you're on a motorcycle. There are certain places you cannot travel, or at least shouldn't try. And we route you differently depending on your vehicle. We also, or even timing. And then we have multiple routes as well. So this is a mock-up. Again, it's nothing specific. It's just a mock-up to show you what the interface looks like. When you start navigation, it's that button up in the upper right-hand corner. It will give you that first green screen that I showed you here. Direction of travel, the vehicle you're taking, number of travels you have, type, that type of thing. And then you start. Now, everything is completely customized. We will direct you on the particular lanes to use, whether or not you're on a detour, what the upcoming simplified navigation is. So here you see in 1.5 miles, you're going to continue to drive on Santa Monica Boulevard and continue your travel. The bottom part that shows the map here in our mock-up will have multiple different things telling you whether or not you moved into a different state, if you're in a different area, if you're in a construction area, if you're in a hazardous area, meaning weather, and a bunch of different things. So it's kind of a catch-all area that'll simplify it. The whole goal in my mind in developing this, since we were going to do it, we ended up doing it completely customized so it can be exactly how we want, is to make it as simple as possible and as visually uncomplicated as possible. In my mock-up here, I'm showing you a map. In most cases, you will not have any map. It will simply tell you where you're at and what your next turn or merge onto the interstate or whatever that's going to be, or the next point of interest coming up. I want you to look at the road. First of all, it's a safety issue. Second of all, you're supposed to be exploring the road and enjoying that. I can't tell you how many people we've had, couples that say, my wife missed half of it because she's looking through some guide map book or something, or even looking at her app, trying to figure out where they're at, when the next turn is. And they're exploring their lap more than they are exploring the mother road. And I don't want to do that. So ours is very simple. It tells you all the different turns and things you need to take. And it is also has audio turn by turn. So the app will actually give you the audio of what's coming up and what you want to do. Now, let me show you some of the problems with the other maps and how we fixed those. Think of Route 66 as a linear community. The linear community goes through multiple jurisdictions. Those are the states. Each state has multiple jurisdictions. Those are the communities. And every one of them has a different kind of signage, which is weird. They have, different ways of driving, different ways of traveling, different looks. And that's just the uniqueness about the United States that a lot of foreign travelers really get confused on. And this is kind of some of the examples. So here you see in California, as you're jumping off here, you're traveling down Route 66 from the top. I'm just talking about the westbound travel. And then the mapping, if you look at any kind of mapping, or even in most GPS systems, it's going to say turn off of historic Route 66 onto Palm Avenue. And that is actually incorrect. If you look at, this is a screenshot here, it is not Palm Avenue, it's Institution Drive. So it's wrong. it's just the visual of what being in the real physical world is showing you versus what the app is, thinks you're doing, just because of the data they have. And it's just simply the data is wrong. And it'll get corrected at some point, but who knows when. Here you see a location, I believe this one's in Oklahoma, where if you look here on the traveling eastbound in this particular case, so you're traveling with the arrow, and what you need to do to continue to travel east on Route 66 is you need to take a left, just a little left, and then take an immediate right. The problem with that is the only signage they have shows turning left. And because there's no area for signage after that little bitty jog, people, regardless of which way you want to travel, are going to turn left because that's what the sign says. And instead, you really want to go where the sign, the opposite of what the sign's pointing. So our app is unique where we will actually tell you to ignore the sign. If you're traveling west, ignore the sign. If you're traveling east, if you're traveling west in this case, you don't have to ignore the sign. But if you're traveling east, our app knows that, and it will tell you to ignore the sign that you see. We actually have one here in, we're in Bloomington Normal, Illinois. We actually have multiple routes and signs, and if you follow them, you will get lost because they are just in the wrong locations for historic Route 66. You also have location problems like this. You can see here where the road is actually located, and then you can see where the mapping system thinks it's located. In some cases, this is because the road moved and they haven't updated the map yet, or the map is updated and the road has not moved yet, which is kind of awkward. What we all love and what I really hate are roundabouts. This is one of the most confusing ones that you have out there in Albuquerque. And we make that very simple to show you how to get through the roundabouts. Here's another one that's just outside of Albuquerque. You can see how in the red, which is the path you will take eastbound versus westbound, how different they are and how confusing they can be here with two different roundabouts. So in each of these specific areas, we don't just use a generic graphic. We actually show you the specific graphic and exactly what you're going to do in that area to make sure you make that turn. Texas is extremely unique, but it can be really kind of dangerous. Here you see the yellow is westbound Route 66, the green is eastbound Route 66, and the larger red arrow path is the Interstate 40 exiting, crossing one of the lanes of Route 66 without a stop, and then joining Route 66 on an eastbound trajectory. The yellow has the stop. This confuses a lot of people. If you miss that stop or don't realize it's coming up and somebody's exiting the interstate, they're going to come right at you at 60 miles plus an hour. And it's just kind of in my opinion, not a great design, but that's the way Texas is. They do not do primarily crossovers with the interstates. Here's an area in California. Again, this is getting off the 110, jumping off. The yellow is westbound, red is eastbound, and there are several little jogs and turns, and you're almost in the residential area right when you get off the 110. And our app will show you as you jump through there. Santa Monica Boulevard is one of those other areas that you don't just turn onto Santa Monica Boulevard westbound. You have to jump up, take about half a block away, then turn in and come into it. And that's a spot where a lot of travelers get stuck or confused or totally miss it and just end up somewhere else and trying to find a way to get there. This is probably one of the most famous parts of Route 66 that is completely just not anywhere else in the maps or GPSs. I know we're running out of time here, so I'm going to wrap it up. This is the Gastonade Bridge here over the Gastonade River. The bridge is closed so that the bridge doesn't exist. You have to go onto the interstate. A year and a half ago, they added a new bridge, and this is actually where the location is of the new bridge and the new roadway. It is not in any mapping system yet that I have seen. It may start popping up, but it's been open now for over a year. And in some cases, these systems, because of how they get their data, take up to 4 years for them to actually show up. So they can't direct you on this if you're using a generic app or an app that uses the generic data systems. Ours does, because it's customized. We make our own paths, our own routes. This is in our navigation. You don't miss it. You go right over it, and it knows exactly where you are. This is also very handy for places that have dirt roads that aren't on any mapping system and aren't going to be, because they're just not roads. They're paths in different areas, and our system covers that, which is one of the things we wanted to do. Also in navigation, we tell you when you're arriving at a point of interest to give you the heads up. We have parking available to help you with the different parking lots. That's especially helpful for those of us who travel in an RV. And then other points of interest, like the end of the route in California. We let you know when you're at the official end of the route, when you're, what the years are for that particular end of the route, and then the end officials. We also show you, this is kind of, if you look in the upper left-hand corner, we're going to show you in the navigation where, if you're on historic Route 66. In some cases, you're on the interstate, but it says 66. You're really not on 66. You're just on the general path of it. We will tell you when you're on historic part of the path or not, and then the years. This is the Route 66 community, just to give you, I know we're not really talking to the points of interest here. More of you are going to be the travelers, but this shows that they have their own side of the app, that they can see who signs their guest book, gets passports and that sort of thing. So that's the end of my presentation. Kind of went through it quick, but I'll be happy to take any questions on it, and we can go from there.
Well, I am going to start with a question of my own, if that's okay. You mentioned discounts in the app, and I was wondering if you could give us a few examples of some of the discounts that you have available in there.
Oh, okay. So as the points of interest are coming online, we have just a few of them now that have been testing it with us. That's the official points of interest. They submit information to us, so we get news from them and updates in their areas, and we pass it on to travelers. They will also offer the discounts. Again, that's a new feature that is coming in. We don't have any yet to speak of. The Jackrabbit may have something. I'm not really sure. They're kind of doing stuff on their own. I know several of them, if you display the app to them because the users have it, they will give you something or give you a discount. Officially, we don't have them logged in yet, but I know several of them are using it. But we will list that in the app when those become available for each POI.
Excellent. Very good. I don't want to monopolize with all of my questions. So if anybody else has any questions, please feel free to type them into the chat, would be the preference, or put your hand up. I see Bonnie Hodge, you have your hand up, so go right ahead.
Yeah, I tried to download the app just now, and every time I try to start it, I get a message that says, unfortunately, Route 66 Ultimate Guide has stopped. And I did send feedback on that, but if I try to open the app, it just circles around and gives me the same message. So I can't get into the app.
Okay, it's going to be something on your device specifically. I would suggest emailing us at support@route66ultimateguide.com. You can just also go to route66ultimateguide.com and click on support there, and then contact our team, and we'll walk you through that. That's going to be something specific to you. It may take some time just to figure out, where you're at. So if you do that, we'll get you up and running.
Sorry. There we go. Can you do me a favor and repeat that email address?
Yeah, if you go, I'll just give you the website. It's easiest, and you can get to it all from there. It's route66ultimateguide.com. route66ultimateguide.com. You can download it from there. You can get support from there.
I wanted to put that into the chat so that
there you
it would be easy for everybody. So that's why I asked specifically.
Yep.
There was a question from David Hull. Can you select or turn off specific sharing permissions within the app?
Yes. So if you want to sign guest books or show up at points of interest and so forth, and you don't want that shared with the points of interest, you have the option within the app to turn each one of those selectively off for your own privacy. That's completely up to you.
Another question, how are you financing the app?
The app is currently financed just by my company. It is a free app to everybody. We will have the points of interest. We'll have different paid backsides for them to participate in it further. So we don't exclude any points of interest, but if they want to get in deeper and further, offer the discounts, have the different things, then they will be able to participate in the app that way, and that will be one of the revenue sources. We will also have advertising within the app, which will be not the generic stuff you see in every other app. It'll be our specific advertising that will specifically be for the route.
Do you have any idea when the navigation portion will be made available?
We hope any day. We've kind of, set it a week ahead, and then something happens, set it a week ahead. The unfortunate part with me, if you notice, I have a little bit of a lisp. I've had, I was supposed to have some oral surgeries last year. COVID put that back. Ended up having 4 this year because it was put off. And I have work in my mouth right now. So because I'm the primary of the team on that one, that's put me back too. It is on. It's functioning. We're using it. We continue to test it. As soon as it's available, it'll automatically be available in everybody's app. And we will. So you actually have it in your app. We just don't have it turned on for you. And we will send out an email and news as well when that becomes available, so everybody can get on and play with it and start to use it. But we hope by the end of the month at worst. But again, it just depends on what happens.
So you mentioned foreign travelers a lot in terms of who's using the app. So do you have any ideas of how many foreigners versus domestic travelers currently have the app loaded?
We do. Right now, we have 25% are non-US. And 75% are US. That is expected. We don't do really any promotion or advertising yet outside of the US. It's pretty much Facebook. People hear about it and that sort of thing. But we expect that to go up, way up once navigation is released. The navigation part's really what a lot of people are looking for. We're very heavy now in information about points of interest, different points of interest. We have almost double the points of interest of everybody else. We have about 800 points of interest, I think, in the hopper that'll be added, which is incredible to think about when you have that many points of interest. And then once navigation hits, a lot of those people will jump on.
Excellent. So about those points of interest, what do you think, from what you're seeing, are some of the most common, most popular, at least in California, since we're California based?
Yeah, a lot of the points of interest, obviously you have your big ones that everybody wants to hit, everybody hears about. You've got Roy's in the background there, the pier and so forth. Those are the big ones. Those are the ones that people are visiting the most. The ones we get asked about the most are the ones that you really don't hear about. So, as an example, in my hometown of Pontiac, there's actually a home. It's just off Route 66. It's not in anything you'll ever find anywhere that I've ever seen. I didn't even know about it, and I was the mayor at the time. That there's actually a home that looks like a regular old home built in the 70s. No big deal. You'd never even know it was there. It's just a home in a neighborhood. But it was built completely around an old historic trolley, an old electric trolley. They pulled the trolley onto the lot, mounted the trolley on a foundation, and built the house around it. So inside the house is a trolley. Weird, unique things like that. In California, it's the Suicide Bridge. It's bridges, infrastructure, those type of things. Neon is a huge draw that a a lot of people, it's like, I just want to know where the neon is. And it may not even be in a historic area, but there's some neat neon somewhere. And that's a big draw as well. And California is, you know, especially in the LA area, is packed with great neon and great signage in general. And we point those out. So even a specific sign just all by itself on the route, we will point out. Those are kind of the secondary, you know, it's not the big one, it's not Roy's, it's not, you know, that type of thing, but people want to see those type of things. Everybody gets to see the big points. Everybody wants to know about the little hidden ones.
So with regards to the neon, and this actually brings up a question that was just asked by one of our board as well. I put it into the text, but in case, or into the chat, I mean, but for those of you who hadn't seen that in the chat, I actually have a list of all of the neon along 66 in the Los Angeles County area. So first of all, let me offer that to you, Scott, if I haven't already gotten it to you. And that also brings up the question of how can someone submit a point of interest for you to include?
Okay, we get them all the time. You can submit them through the app, through the support, or you can submit them just by going again to our website or sending an email to support@route66ultimateguide.com. All that comes into our team, it gets sorted out, and then we will, you know, explore them. We've had so many unique points of interest or different things that we didn't know about, or you know, I've traveled the route every year. I do it at least once annually, the full route. Usually it's twice because my wife wants to do one of those as well with me when she has a little time off from school. And then I do multiple little short portions of the route as things pop up and I want to visit and get in there or check something out for navigation. And there are things that just surprise me on a weekly basis that come into us. So please submit those to us. We will explore them, and we want to add everything to the app. It's kind of a unique thing we have in the app. When you search it and you look through it, you're going to see on route POIs, off route POIs, and side trips. So the on route is really about usually a quarter of a mile around the route. There is no single path throughout 66. We all know that. Multiple alignments. You can take the route and it's different. It's like a game of golf. I don't care how many times you travel it, it's different every single time. And new things pop up, things go away. Route, you have different alignments. So we kind of have a swath or path through there that's on route. Things that are a little bit further away, there's some historic barns, museums, some really neat things that you want to see in those areas. Not specific Route 66, but you definitely want to stop, or you may be completely interested in it. And then there's side trips. So those are things like the Grand Canyon, you know, things like that, and there's a bunch of them, of course, in California. Some of my stuff is history is music. Jeepers crow, I can't, my brain's just shutting off here. A movie buff a little bit. So like, I love the Back to the Future movies. Tons of those areas and scenes are around there in the LA area, and you got to travel and see some of those. Again, not Route 66 specific. We consider those side trips, but we are including those more and more as the app develops.
There's been a couple other questions, but I don't want to keep us going for too long. I do want to ask the question of multiple alignments, though. And when you get to places like St. Louis and Los Angeles, where you have multiple alignments, how much of that material is covered within the app?
Okay, in the navigation of the app, that would all be in the navigation of it. The points of interest are already there for the different alignments. So you can search them and find them. But the navigation will take you. So in the navigation, you're going to say, I want the, excuse me, the fastest route, the oldest possible route, the RV safe, oldest possible route, and all of that. And then it'll give you the choices for the different alignments. So through St. Louis, you have obviously multiple different alignments. In the state of Illinois, we have an old alignment, and then we have a kind of a 70s newer alignment. And they aren't even close to each other, kind of like St. Louis. You're either going to take one or the other. You aren't going to do both just because they've got a distance between them. You're going to pick and create the route path that you want to take that is safe for your particular type of vehicle and fits in your time frame. The app will actually handle all of that, and you'll be able to pick those. The The southern St. Louis route is kind of the historic one that a lot of people talk about, and it's in all the books. The northern route is pretty unique. I mean, it's got some really neat areas in it. It's more newer development, but there's also more safety issues with the northern route in the St. Louis area. We will point those out to you. Some of the areas you want to keep traveling, you don't necessarily want to stop at and walk around. And we'll just alert you to those things. Now, an interesting thing too is, not to scare anybody or foreign people, but there are safety issues that pop up from time to time. St. Louis did have some of those. There was some rioting that was spilling over into some areas that were close to Route 66. Unfortunate thing. Our navigation, if it was active at the time and people were using it, we would actually route you completely around those, and we would change your route in real time. We don't want you going in those areas. We want you, alerted to those type of things. And it's just one of those things that, the flash flooding, the different safety alerts, these things. The navigation is in real time. It's dynamic. And as long as you have an internet connection of some sort, it works that way. If you don't have an internet connection, everything is offline. I forgot to mention that for navigation. You don't need internet connection to use the navigation. Once you've got it set up, it's saved in your account, it's saved in your phone, and you don't have to have any connection whatsoever.
Excellent. Well, we normally try to keep these to about an hour, which is where we're at right now. So I would encourage, if anybody has any further questions, hit up the website and the email, like Scott mentioned earlier, route66ultimateguide.com and support@route66ultimateguide.com. If you have any suggestions for POIs for him, definitely hit him up. And would like to say Scott, thank you. I know there were a lot of comments that were made while we were chatting and while we were taking questions, saying thank you for the information and the descriptions. A lot of people with the app already downloaded and saying that this is going to definitely help them out a lot in terms of using the app and being out on the road, as several of them were even saying they're traveling soon with the app. So really, really excited about that. Looking forward to getting everybody out again. I mean, that is our point in doing these Zooms, has been to get people out on the road, especially in California. So definitely glad that you could come on and help everybody understand the use a little bit more, and that everyone's looking forward to getting out and traveling. So thank you, Scott, for being here. Before we
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we leave, I am going to do a little quick screen share of my own, because as I mentioned earlier, we have been doing these presentations monthly on the 4th Saturday of every month. And so we have a couple of really, really good presentations coming up. We continue to bring in some very, very talented and important people on the route. And I'm looking forward to this next one. And I think, Scott, we should let Ron make the decision. Our next presentation is Ron Clements. He is the author of the about to come out book, A Sports Fan's Guide to Route 66, which I meant to have handy for me because I have an advanced copy of it. But I think, Scott, we should let Ron make the decision. Who are the baseball team to support along Route 66? Because everybody knows.
Well, no, wait a minute. It's got to be the Cubs, because the Cubs are at the start and you end with the Dodgers.
So
Scott being a big Dodgers fan.
But that being said, we can't forget. I mean, this is where sports comes in really good for Scott and I. You can't forget though, Scott, that once you hit Tulsa, you're already in Dodger country, because you've got the Tulsa Drillers, the Oklahoma City Dodgers, the Rancho Cucamonga Quakes, all Route 66 towns, all with Dodgers affiliates. So that's a done deal. Okay, that's our little battle royal that we've had going on. But
yeah,
Ron,
I'm looking forward to that book too. That's going to be fun.
It's really a fascinating look. I've been trying to get it all read before he comes on next month. But it's a fascinating, different way to look at the road, and I'm really excited to have him on board next month. And then in September, we have Nick Carver, award-winning photographer, who we discovered through his photos of Ludlow, California. So he's going to be talking about specifically Ludlow area and what he shot out there, but also getting into a little bit more about his photography. And if anybody has any other ideas of things that they would like to see us have presentations about, please feel free to drop us a line via the Route 66 Association website, which is route66ca.org. The emails from that all come to me. So whether you like me or not, that's where the emails go. And I do my best to answer them all. Also on our website, we do have a membership form. So if you're not already a member, please, please, please feel free to join us. All of your support goes to maintaining these types of programs and the preservation efforts that we've had underway, and all of our work to try to further promote and educate about Route 66 in California. So on behalf of our other board members, we'd like to thank all of you for being here, and thank you, Scott, for your wonderful, wonderful presentation. And we look forward to seeing you all again next month. Thank you, everybody. Lynn, did you have something you're saying, or no, you're just waving?
Waving.
Just making sure. Thank you all. And anybody on our board that's still here, please hang out for a minute.
Scott, did you want me to hang out as well?
You can. Yeah, we usually do a little, just a little quick discussion afterwards of.
Okay. If you don't mind, I don't want to intrude. I didn't know if you'd want me to stick around afterwards.
Oh,
or
no,
not.
you definitely
questions or
are feel free. Actually, there's a
Great
couple.
job.
There's a couple things I might even let you know. I just want to get everybody out that's not bored first.
Great job on that, Scott. Very interesting.
Thank you. I hope nobody was bored.
No.